Welcome to the Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. And OBS Studio changed the orientation of my meters, and so I'm a little bit confused right now. Can you hear me okay? I'm hoping. I'll just check. Well, we'll see if someone in the chat can say so.
Well, just for the record, you sound good.
Oh, well, good. Well, oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. Good morning, Scrub Ghost. So each show we have a talk about Linux projects such as distribution, desktop environment, or application. We also chat about the news or any variety of topics. Anything that is Linux, tech, and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, a Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project. And with me today, I've got a fantastic panel of people. I've got Dale, Eric, Hip Dad, Jinda, Penguin Revolution, Zebedee Boss. He actually runs the joint just because he's got Boss in his name. Adam G. I got Eris and Mike Chilson. How is everybody?
Excellent.
Oh, right. Well, I'm so glad to see you. I missed you all last week. So glad that we're all here and arrived in one piece, I guess. Yeah. With what's going on. Yep. Anyway, if you'd be so kind as to hit that like button, subscribe, or better yet, join here the voice chat on Discord. Provide your voice, your input, and help me to talk less. Also, be sure to do that straw poll if you have not done so already. The straw poll is if Android loses sideloading, will you switch to some other Android Rom or maybe something else? And on the docket for today, we'll get a news flight night. We're talking about all kinds of exciting news topics. Do some housekeeping, last call, but first we're doing Linux and tech. So I wanted to share a little bit about Linux, so in tech. So last week I was not here because I was in Sault Ste. Marie. Have you ever heard of it? It's in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Basically, you can just right across the lake from Canada, however you want to call it. And so last week, it is springtime here in the Northern Hemisphere, and apparently Sault Ste. Marie did not get that memo. It was very much January there in Sault Ste. Marie, and the snow was, I don't know, about a 4 or 5 foot. I mean, like the most of the roads there were like tunnels. I'm sure, Jinda, you are very accustomed.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Yes, so, I know what snow is.
So I guess I got like 2 or 3 feet, like the few days prior to, or maybe a week before. I don't know. Sometime before we arrived, and we were at this robotics first robotics competition was at Lake Superior State University, smaller state university in the UP. And actually, even though I've lived in Michigan all my life, I've traveled around the world quite a bit. I've actually been to England before I was in the Upper Peninsula. I just want to say, because the army, and I never had really made a point to ever go to the Upper Peninsula. But anyway, it's the bridge there, the Mackinac Bridge. That's a pretty amazing feat of engineering, if I do say so. And look it up sometime. The fact that they when they paint it. As soon as they're done painting it, because it takes multiple years to paint it, it's time to start painting it again. So that's something I think is pretty amazing. And I got AM 5:30 to tune in to see if there's anything like warnings of the bridge. When I crossed over, it was my first time crossing over the bridge. I was doing it at like 1:30 in the morning. They had like a wind advisory, so you don't blow off the bridge or whatever. So you had to like travel at 30 miles an hour because of the crosswinds there. And has anybody ever crossed a bridge slow because of dangerous weather? I don't know. Sometimes the bridge, I guess, is closed because ice falls, which that seems like kind of like a game of Frogger, only sort of in reverse. But anyway. So made it across, no problem. And I was so excited to go over the full scale for me says I rode over on the first day it opened. That's amazing. I don't even know what year that was. But anyway, when I got through the bridge, I was really excited at the end, and I said to the toll guy, because it's like a $4 toll to go across in a minivan, and I said, "This is my first time over the bridge. It's very this is my first time. I'm 40 plus years old." And he looks at me and he just holds his hand out and says, $4. Did not care whatsoever that it was my first time across the bridge, and I thought that was kind of funny. So But anyway, the robotics competition, I did share some links in the Telegram and I think Discord. I think just Telegram because I didn't have great connection in the place itself. It was pretty bogged down. But anyway, it was very exciting to see the whole competition happen. My son's robotics team, you can actually look them up. It's 7814 is their team number. They did very well. They got into the finals. I think they were 11th out of 41 teams. And they're kind of a small, they're from a much smaller school, like a real small kind of, like they'll basically take hand-me-downs sort of robotics team. And they did very well. I think the whole team just did great. And my son's a programmer on the team, so I'm expecting that he will end up as a controls engineer or something along those lines because he likes doing the robotics thing. And I'm just happy to know that he will not be eating Cheetos in my basement doing nothing as an adult. So that's what I'm looking forward to, that he's going to have a career and he's all set, as long as he doesn't screw things up. But anyway, I do have to say the first robotics competition, the whole program, yeah, it's not perfect, but it's a very cool program to watch these kids that have different skill sets work on the team. So I actually learned a lot at this competition. Some teams that are larger, they have like scouts that actually watch the other robots and see what they're good in, what they're not good in, and all these fun like statistics. It's like people who watch baseball did know the stats of different people and what they're good and whatnot. It's kind of like that, except just for robots. And they're not destructive to each other, but they do kind of beat each other up in the process of trying to accomplish their goals. But anyway, it was good times. If you know any, like have any nephews, nieces, kids, whatever, that are even tangentially interested in technology, I would say push them towards the first robotics. They have different levels of, I think start with a Lego, and then there's intermediate, and then the high end. So I'd encourage them to check it out because who knows, a little bit of what's that?
And does that mean you now understand why Wendy is so enthusiastic about it?
Yes, I do. Now, I've been kind of enthusiastic, like I'm interested in it, but not really like super because I just didn't have the time or whatever. I hadn't dedicated or done anything with it. But yeah, I can see why it totally absorbs her. She's actually a leader in it. I'm just I'm like a parent mentor, just kind of help them along with it.
A minnow, yeah. She's a shark. You're a minnow, yeah.
Yeah, shark. I'm probably like the algae more than a minnow. So. But yeah,
I did it a couple of times, Nate, and it's definitely a fun thing to do. I was at a number of events. I helped some of the kids with their robots. It is, I don't know how to say it other than way more spectacular than I thought it was going to be. They put on a big show.
Yeah. I mean, because it takes up the entire baseball. Good job, Nathan. It takes an entire basketball court, essentially. And, they're moving. The obstacles are really a lot of fun. And as the games progressed, like through the qualifications especially, you could see the more, I don't want to say desperation, but the intensity of how the operators would move their robot around. Like you would see them hit the obstacles a little more gingerly early on. And then toward the end, they're just flying over them, doing the Starsky and Hutch, just right into the center of the play field. So it was a lot of fun to watch, and a lot of people, a lot of cheering, a lot of people with, numbers or crazy hats or whatever. And I kind of like.
Oh, the buttons! Remember the buttons?
Yeah. Oh, no,
everybody's got a button.
Yep, I got the button right here. So
it's
backwards for everybody else. It's backwards for YouTube, but forwards probably for Discord here. So anyway, the RV Gearheads 7814. So
I think I was with the Warlocks 1507. I think.
Okay.
Nate, did you say that they came 11th out of 40?
Out of 41, yes.
Out of 41, that's good. Was this their first outing?
No, this is the second time out. So the first time I think they did, I can't remember, like 18 out of 39 or 38. And so they improved quite a bit to the next. And then They're done for the season now. They've been eliminated. They're not going to go to state, which is unfortunate. But I think they did well, and they're very happy with it. I think it's the first time in the history of the team that they ever made it to the point where they actually were a team captain in the qualification round. So that was pretty cool too.
Mm-hmm. As long as they realise that now climbing up the ladder is going to be exponentially harder each step they go up, because that's when you get to the top 6 and you're talking the really good guys ready to move up to the next level. So I wish them the best of luck, mate. That sounds awesome.
Yep. I think so. Now we're kind of going to the off season. I think we're going to. I'm gonna work with my son more on doing the a lot of the refining some of his programming skills so he can do more. The neat part is that they have an autonomous mode where it'll operate automatically and do they have like 30 seconds I think of autonomous time. So the more points they can score in there, that all the better. So we're going to work on some of those aspects of it, and I may have to maybe invest a couple bucks here and there to help him hone his abilities. But that's cheaper than college, so buy some parts, buy some things. But I think some of the bots that were really interesting is they had these like turrets on the top, and so they would shoot the balls. Like they could actually see where, using these tags, April tags are called, kind of like QR codes. They could actually see where the basket was, and they could move and shoot, and it would just be automatic. I thought that was just really cool. And some of the control interfaces that they were using, some people had we used like an 8-bit do controller primarily for ours, but other teams had that plus a control surface with like arcade buttons, the kinds that you'd mash for overrides and like autonomous, like some routines that basically it would go through. And some things were like, force shoot anyway, so they had some interlocks, whatever, that stopped them from certain activities, so you could like override those interlocks. But some of the techniques that some of the robots would do that I thought was really cool is they would go into the center where all the balls are, and they had like basically the balls are like the scoring mechanism. They had another name for it, and some would just scoop them up and then just kind of throw them over to deny it to the other team during their time of when they could shoot baskets. It was really neat, just the different techniques that they would use just based on the design of the robot. So ours is a lot more simple, but it did its job and it did pretty well. So anyway, lots of fun. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I have to say, if somebody even tangentially interested in their family or if you are to help out with a robotics team, it really is a good time. So anyway, all right. So we haven't done that straw poll yet. There's still a little bit of time here. If you want to knock that out, it's if Android loses sideloading, will you switch to some Android Rom or something else? So
yeah. If I can just quickly interject on that one,
yes.
I read a comment somewhere, and I can't remember where it was, but it was almost like, can we not promote Android's use of the word sideloading? You're not sideloading anything. You're just trying to load the program that you want to load on your own phone. And the way the person described it was, if you keep using that terminology, sideloading the software, it makes it sound as if you're doing something that you're not supposed to do, whereas you are actually doing something that you should be able to do because it's your phone and you run the software that you want, not what the massive big corporations are talking about. And I thought that was a small point, but quite poignant.
I like that.
I can understand that. So then, what would you call it? As a quick, easy way of saying non Google Store way of loading applications, or non repository way.
Why do you even have to mention it? Why do you have to even mention it? It's a non-Google Store application. You're just loading an application on your phone.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I get where you're coming from. But
yeah,
the more we legitimize it by mentioning the fact that we're doing something that's non-standard.
I like the term direct install.
Yeah, direct install is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because I guess I haven't really called it. So on my Linux machine, sometimes I download an RPM or a non-repository managed application. I'm not sure what to call it now. Now, because you brought that up, I hadn't thought of it until just now. So, thanks, Zeb. So no, I guess then, what would I? like a non-managed application, perhaps, or I don't really know. I mean, there's got to be some way of describing that in a nice, clean way.
I
What
still like direct install.
direct install. So when I sideload
I think
RPMs
that
on my
yeah.
Tumbleweed machine, no. See, now I'm poking the bear, or trying to.
Sorry.
No, I was poking the bear. Anyway, so if Android loses direct install of applications, will you switch to some other Android Rom? Guess Eris is here. How you doing, Eris?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic. It's good to be in the saddle. Except it's a stool.
There were some replies. Somebody said, "I voted other. I've been using an alternative Android ROM for years, EOS."
Yep, that's a good one.
And then somebody said, "Already on Graphene OS." And somebody else said, "I made the switch to iPhone 4.5 years ago after having had a couple of bad Pixel 3Ss in a row, and that was on top of my decades-long frustration, which was at the time poor device support from Android device manufacturers."
That's a good point.
And somebody said, "I've been on off and on ROMs like Lineage OS. I'm more than happy to get a kick in the complacency and start roaming or ROMing my phones again." And as far as the poll, let me refresh one last time.
Ooh, yep, gotta do that.
Number one answer with 48%, no, I will keep using Android. 20%, I am already using iOS or will switch to Apple. And 20%, yes, I will switch to Android ROM. 20% other, nobody said I don't use Android or iOS, and nobody said Tux Penguin.
So what about you, Eris? What are you going to do if direct install goes away? What would you switch to, or what would you do?
I'm already using Lineage OS.
Okay.
I probably should get another phone, but I don't know. I'm debating where to get another phone right now, or maybe not. But it seems like if I don't get it now, it'll be a couple years probably before I should get another phone, because it's probably gonna be either like the phones are gonna get worse because of the RAM shortage, or they're gonna get more expensive. So.
Well, they've been getting more expensive, I think. Anyway, I mean, really, the phones that, at least I should say, that interest me tend to be more expensive than the ones that are what I have been purchasing. So I don't know.
And to be honest with you, that's what frightens me the most about trying to load another operating system onto your phone. I mean, I've done it before, but that was back in the old days when I had, 2 or 3 of the top phones and I could afford to lose one. But, you spend £1,000 on a phone and then you try and put Lineage OS on it, or whatever the latest Graphene OS is meant to be, one of the most secure at the moment. But what do you do if you brick it? You've then just, how do you get Google back on? And I've supposedly got one of the easiest phones to do. I've got a Pixel 8 Pro, and apparently Pixel are one of the easiest to put graphene on. But can I afford to lose my £1,000 phone just because I wanted to de-Googleify it? And as Aris said, getting another phone, it's real pot luck when you buy them from these second-hand places. Are you going to get something that's good? Are you going to get something that's just a pile of poo that someone's trashed? Because I'm very particular. I've very rarely bought the second-hand market. And apart from an old e-phone that I bought and then gave away at Odd Camp in Manchester, I've never really been outside the realm of the big boys. So either Samsung or Huawei, or this is my first time using Pixel. And to be honest with you, I'll never use them again because I just hate the way the phone works. So
Interesting.
maybe I should maybe I should move it over to Graphene, or whichever would be the best for it.
I've been considering the Fairphone, but I haven't pulled the trigger.
So I want to add to that if you have a sweetie that is telling you I want a phone that works, do you dare to do any of this stuff with her phone? I don't. I just want it
totally
to work.
Get it. Yeah, totally get it. Well, it's so I guess so for Sweetie, there's probably not a desire to do a direct install of any sort of applications, though, right? So then I guess that for that it probably wouldn't matter. Like there's no benefit there. Now, what if? Here's just a thought. So Graphene is now going to start. I think they're going to be putting some Motorola is working with Graphene, I guess now, on having like their operating system installed.
They're collaborating.
They're collaborating. That's right. Yeah, for some of their phones. So it seems like there's an out there. I think that Fairphone is probably another great out with EOS. So I do feel like there's some alternatives out there. I think when you give EOS probably another look, but pretty much the only applications that I think I really care about are basically my banking app, and then the different Bitwarden, and I think like what I need for me personally. I don't have a whole lot of needs because I don't use my phone that much. Sometimes games are fun, but mindless games, the whatever. So I wonder how those would work with those on a de-Googled phone. I don't know, or maybe it's time to just hang them up and say like, I'm not willing to give up my sovereignty, I suppose.
Well, I mean, they're not eliminating you from sideloading apps. What they're going to do is they're going to slow down the process.
Oh,
Yeah. No, that's exactly. I mean, Google's already come out and said this. What you're going to have to do is when you sideload an app, first you got to put the phone into developer mode, right? And then you got to wait. You got to go through a series of questionnaires about the app, and then you got to wait 24 hours, and then the app will be active.
Yeah, that's the annoying.
Honestly, I think it's a good alternative. You don't necessarily want it to be wide open for people who don't know. And I know it makes it irritating for us that do know, but you have to serve the majority, and the majority don't know.
Yeah, and that 24 hours is because somebody's pressuring them to install some APK that they shouldn't be. And
Rush
that
desk.
24 hours maybe gives them clarity to like, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't be doing this,
Yeah, something
Instead
like
of go buy the gift cards and read us the number, that kind of thing. You know?
And the other thing too is if you're one complaint I heard, I think when we had one of these discussions was, if you're a developer, it's going to trip you up. Well, no, it won't, because if you're using the debug bridge, none of that applies. If you have the Android tools to develop with on your machine, then you can sideload the app directly in with no problems.
I'm actually gonna mention I was a temporary developer and made games for Android and iPhone, and it became such a pain in the butt that I decided, and I wasn't making really any money anyway. I decided that I'm out, and I had some games on Android and iPhone through the Godot engine, and it started becoming such a pain in the butt that I just didn't want to see the next update that I was going to have to try to follow. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to lead Google with Google's flag here. I'm just trying to get some clarity on this, because there's a lot of there's a lot of hype and a lot of grandstanding going on about you're not going to be able to do this anymore, and that's just not true. They've just slowed you down, is what they've
Yeah,
done.
and I 100% agree with you. I think the slowdown is a good thing because of where we're at in the world wide web of Android and iPhone and people being bad people. I think we're in a good place, and I don't have a problem with it.
I wonder what it would do for fleet deployment devices. So I use something called a couple different things, but one's like Intune. It's Microsoft's Intune for managing Android devices and iOS too. But managing iOS devices is not what I would call a good time. So I can push applications to it. It's got its own custom store, but everything else is blocked. So I wonder if I have like custom applications that I want to send to those devices, because you can do that as well. I wonder if that would be tripped up at all by this, or I imagine it wouldn't be messed up by it. That they're not going to, because that's like an enterprise function. Yeah, I wouldn't think it would be. I don't know. I'm totally in speculative land here.
Yeah, if your enterprise tool has, a certificate from Google that it can include and build when it builds those, then it should be able to, install no problem. So
yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not really terribly worried about it because most of the stuff is official Google Play stuff anyway. So,
and by the way, if you want to read more, there's a great article. Eris, I'm putting it in the video, the Discord chat here, about this that kind of explains exactly explains more in detail about what will happen when you try and sideload something. So.
Got it. It'll be in the show notes at the end when I roll this whole thing up. Awesome.
As a developer, I think they're doing the right thing. I just don't know if they're doing it in the right way.
Well, that's very true. I'll agree with that.
Well, quite honestly, the only problem I have is it seems like Google is trying to tell me how to run my hardware that I bought and paid for. And I kind of get a little bit ticked off when the developer of the software tries to tell me what to do. But there might be some middle ground they could find where you can like bypass, putting it in a option to bypass that. But I mean, I can understand. Yes, for security, it's a good idea, but I just don't like.
They're not.
Mike has just said that they're not stopping you from doing it. You've just got to wait an additional 24 hours. You can still do it.
They're not telling you can't. You just have to wait. It's still your device.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, still, the waiting period is still, to me, them telling me how to run my hardware. So,
okay, think about
that.
Think about Google holding the hand of your average worldwide person. That they have to, yes, and they have to actually. They have to take into consideration the safety, the digital safety of everybody that they have to. You are not the normal. I'll go that far. You are not the normal person that Google is worried about. The normal person that Google is worried about is not you, and they have to. But for lack of better terms, they have to babysit the general populace. And I think for them to find a middle ground and say that, okay, we don't want to stop people from being able to do it, but we want to intervene a little bit. I think they found a pretty good middle ground.
Yeah, but that middle ground was already reached when they warn you to sideload. Because every time you sideload, it pops up a warning saying that's not vetted and all of that. So, I mean, I think that that's more of the middle ground that I think it is. It's always been an option. This has always been a security risk with Android. And now all of a sudden it's a big issue that they have to go and lock it down. I kind of have an issue with that, and I'm probably always going to have an issue with stuff like that. So
I get that. I understand that. I watch a lot of people getting taken advantage of kind of videos and intervening with kind of videos, but you have to, again, you have to take into consideration they are a giant worldwide babysitter. And the fact that they're only going to make you wait 24 hours, I think, is a very minor inconvenience. And I'm done on that one.
I just found a number. Take this for what it's worth. It's from Google, but they say 89% of known mobile malware for Android is instituted by sideloading. 89% of it.
Yes, and that's it. I mean that right there is it. And a lot of people that get hacked are getting hacked by sideloading. And if you have to wait for 24 hours, it's long enough for you to go, man, let me think about this for a minute. Okay, now I'm done. Sorry.
Also, haven't they introduced this because quite a few apps with malware made it through to the Google Store? Or have I got that completely wrong?
There was like 371 apps made it through.
Happens all the time. It's not a rare occurrence to get a malware through the Play Store.
And to be honest with you, it gets through a lot of Play stores like iPhone and different Linux distros. It's not unusual.
Yeah, and I guess that's the difficulty. I think it's how do you put in safeguards? It's going to be a constant, probably a battle. But how do you put in safeguards, but also allow for freedom? Because the two are in many ways in direct conflict with one another.
And that's why I'm going to defend Android. I think they did the right thing. Making you wait 24 hours is not, as a developer for Android, and I have done many side-loading apps, and none of them are malicious. I think waiting 24 hours is fine.
Yeah, I think, and honestly, to me, I think that's probably a fairly decent compromise. It annoys me, but I can understand. I can understand it. It annoys me. I don't like it, but I understand it, and I have to give them, what else can you do? I mean, what other alternatives would there be? I don't know. Starbuck, we haven't seen him in a while, so I don't know if what your thoughts are on that. You probably use iPhone, don't you?
Yeah, I use the iPhone. I'm heavily deep into the whole ecosystem. I get iPhone, iPad, Mac, the whole shebang. But as far as the sideloaded thing goes, I definitely, I can understand the frustration for some people that they're the want it now type mindset. When I want to put it on my phone, I want it on my phone, and that's that. But then you got to put in the safeguards. I agree with the safeguards. You don't want to allow malicious software to be integrated into other phones or your phone just for speed, just for the convenience of having it now. So I can definitely understand the whole thing about side loading.
Oh.
Yeah, I used to jailbreak my iPhones, and that was the first smartphone I had. So
yeah, I did that to my old Androids. Even put a version of Linux on one way back in the day. But phones are supposed to be my mindset now is, you get the phone, get the phone. Don't tinker with it and don't break it.
Mm-hmm. So what says you, Eric? What is your what do you think the balance is
I'll keep
between
the one thing that I do hope that they figure out is F-Droid, because I do use. I mean, I would say probably 20% of the apps I use are open source from F-Droid. And I know there's other ways to get them, but the way F-Droid works right now, at least, just means that there are so many things that I use that I would either have to track down myself or, not use, which wouldn't be great. So, and I mean, it's just stuff like utility stuff, like photo apps and networking apps, and I mean, there's just a lot of great open source Android apps, and so yeah, that would be a bother, a bummer, or whatever. But I'm not going to Apple. It's not happening. Can't do it. Unless it would take a tremendous amount of pressure for me to go to Apple. Every time I think I might be interested, I'll sit with a relative who has an iPhone and help them fix something, or and I'm like, oh yeah, this is exactly why. It's like a reminder. It's just like every time I have to go into Windows and go, oh yeah, that's right. That's why I don't use Windows. So yeah, I mean, I completely agree that this is a, Dale's right. This is like something that that 89% doesn't surprise me a bit in terms of the malware, because you have to remember, it's not just you or a person actively installing it. There's potentially a way for them to abuse the mechanism by which someone can sideload. So, and that people don't read. So if someone's telling you, hey, click this, and you get that message that says, allow installing from this, app or whatever. Right now it's pretty, even though it seems onerous, like there are steps that you have to take, adding in that wait period. I know, saying this out loud, that it's going to come back and annoy me at some point, that I have to wait. But I think in the end, if that 89% goes down to, 0 or lower because it just becomes impossible, or the wait period just stops so much of that, then it's worth doing. And that's the same opinion I had when we first talked about it a month ago, or two months ago, however long it's been. That's exactly my first thought was, they're doing this for that reason. Like, I don't see any reason why they would want to do this just to annoy people. I don't think it's about control. I don't think it's, wrong that you ask someone to sign a piece of software. I get that, we are, in particular, with open source, we want to make sure there's privacy and stuff like that. But even software, would you install something on your system that was anonymous, that just came from nowhere?
No,
I
think
go to GitHub, and I don't know who someone is, but I can see that they have a reputation. I can see that they've worked on a project. I can see that they're involved and active. And I mean, I have to make assumptions based on those things, but I also have some amount of there's an accountability there, right? If I have a problem with something, I can report it. I can see, how something's being. But the idea that anyone is just taking something that's completely unsigned, unknown entity, and just saying, yeah, slam that APK in there, it just seems like a dumb idea. But maybe people are. I don't know. And if it's a development thing, I can't imagine that there isn't a way to develop. And there's emulators. You don't have to have a physical phone in your hand. You can develop other ways as well. So I don't know. Every argument against this that I've heard hasn't convinced me that it's just the worst idea in the world. So
yeah, when you like, if you're developing, when you install the Android API, it installs something called the Android Debug Bridge, and that's basically where you can hook a device up to your computer via USB and sideload an app directly that way. So the developers have a way to do it.
Yeah.
And I think what Mike
And,
said
you know,
earlier is true. 90% of the users out there haven't got a clue what you were just talking about, Eric. They don't care. Oh, this looks good. I want it. Click, done. Oh dear.
And for Nate, for your point, the management software, I have to imagine there probably be a way, that Google gives companies that are managing their own devices and are, employing policies and stuff like that, or, just deploying software. Like, there's probably going to be a way to not have to wait 24 hours.
It's probably not a big deal anyway, because I'm just thinking there are very few, most things are in the Play Store anyway, and so anything we would add, direct install, it's through this management software anyway. It's through Intune, so Intune pushes it out through. So it's not. I don't think it'd be, because basically, using between what Microsoft has and what Google provides, you basically build your own Play Store so employees can only install the approved applications. That's all they see. There's nothing else. That's all they see.
Yeah, and with a lot of those companies, those large, like those programs that we're talking about, they get, like, was one of the things I did for when I worked for Bank of America, is that we tested them in the background. We put them on virtual machines, and we tested the different softwares, on the phones that we had out, and that certain VIPs and stuff had for phones. We would test Android and iOS apps, and for probably about 3 to 4 weeks before we put it into giving it to the employees for them to download. So a lot of these things, the wait time, once we get approval for the app updates and all that stuff from Android and all that kind of stuff as well, and then push those through and stuff, the wait time's already gone. A lot of times in that environment, the testing's already been done way in advance before it's deployed.
Right. Yeah. Good
I
times.
have to mention one thing.
Sure.
This was a poll that was suggested by Immutable Charlie. So the credit goes to him for the poll.
Oh, well, thank you, Immutable Charlie.
Cool.
I
Just
love
did a podcast with him earlier today.
I love crowdsourced polls. That's a lot of fun. I'll gladly take more crowdsourced polls too. Yeah. I don't know. I was just, as we're chatting, I want to check out the Motorola Razr phones again. I have one. I really like my Motorola Razr, but I'm thinking, I don't know how long it's going to last. If I get 3 years out of it, I'm happy. I'll just get another one. But the price of those have come down quite a bit. They used to be like $1,200-$1,300. Now they're $700 to $300 instead. So get a couple of years old, and yeah, much cheaper. Oh, I like how compact.
There's a larger market out there than people realize for that kind of phone.
Yeah, $399 for 2024. Not too bad.
Yeah, and it's nice to just have that. It's still a flip, right? Or is it a slide or something?
No, it's a flip.
Yeah,
I don't have it in here because it's noisy. Yeah, good times. Good times. All right. Well, that was a fun poll and a great discussion. I love it when these straw polls just take up a lot of the discussion time. That's how you know it's a good straw poll. So thank you, everyone, for your input on that. Anyone have anything else they wanted to throw out there that might be of interest? I know that Texaco says he's never sideloaded an app. He must be missing out. And yes, you are. You are absolutely missing out on all kinds of fun things out there. So anyway. But thank you. Okay, so I thought we'd get onto the news. So it's a news flight night. So a bunch of news topics that were... Hello, Ben. A bunch of news topics that we had suggested in the Telegram and Discord. I'm not sure where these were pulled from, but Eris did those. So thank you, Eris. So there's so first on the list, I did rearrange them a little bit, but Framework Computers steps up their support for KDE. So I thought this was a pretty neat thing. From Phoronix. So Framework Computers is the company behind the modular framework laptop That's what I'm running this off of right now. Framework Laptop 13 with the Ultra something, I don't know, i155H. I don't know what it is. Anyway, Ultra 7. So basically the Core i7, basically the next generation of that, 14th gen or 15th gen, whatever of that. So Framework Computers, as the company behind the modular Framework Laptop, and incredibly Ryzen AI Max Framework Desktop has stepped up their support for the KDE community. So KDE is now the latest open source organization being supported by this computer manufacturer that has become quite popular with open source and Linux enthusiasts for their upgrade-friendly hardware. Becoming a KDE patron requires companies with 50 employees or less to contribute at least €5,000 per year or €10,000 per year for the organization. Larger than 50 employees, Framework Computers join the other KDE patron organization like Blue Systems, Canonical, G10 Code, Google. I don't know Google supported KDE. That's fun. Ubuntu Focus, Ambition, I guess, Rocky Linux, Slimbook, SUSE, Tech Paladin, the Qt Company, and Tuxedo Computers for supporting their development of this open source desktop environment. So today's announcement of Framework, a KDE patron, can be found at kde.org. So in addition to KDE, Framework Computers has also been sponsoring XFCE, NetBSD, FreeBSD, NixOS, Hyperland, LVFS, and many other open source projects, which I think is really cool because I know that the dollars that go to Framework is not just being going to shareholders, as it were, but it's being distributed out to open source projects, and I think that's really awesome. I know that Sean is a huge, I don't know if he's in the chat right now, but huge Nix fan, Nix OS fan, I should say, because Nix is also a team, a sports ball team. I can't remember what it is though. So Nix OS, and it's gonna be pretty cool. So Hyperland, that's something I got to try one of these days. Hyperland. Anybody here use Hyperland? I know it's a side tangent, but anybody use Hyperland? No.
I have a couple of times, Nate.
Yeah. And what do you think of Hyperland?
It's not terrible, but for somebody who doesn't know what the heck they're doing, I would, with a window manager and somebody who's used to a desktop like KDE or XFCE, GNOME, any of those, it's not a good first time person's thing, I would suggest.
I got you.
If you're gonna try window manager, I would say OpenBox or something like that. You know, something that has a little bit more easiness to it. I would say go for one of those. Yeah, like OpenBox or i3 or something like one of those that's got more decent instructions to it. I would go with something like that. What do you think, Penguin?
I think you're Hyperland.
Yeah. Well, as far as Hyperland goes, I couldn't figure it out. I mean, but then again, I haven't put more than like a day or two into trying to figure it out. But I'm like, as far as window managers go, OpenBox, it's pretty good. But a lot of the ones that you were listing were X only. And if you're looking for a Wayland compositor, I'm using Sway with like Dank Material Shell, and that's actually pretty awesome if you can actually get it configured right. I've run into some little issues, but yeah, I thought that Hyperland with Weibo and stuff like that. Oh gosh, I got lost in the manuals. So
I mean, I'm just going to say this: if you want a decent Hyperland setup that's pre-done, there's ones like My Linux for Work or Jack Hulitz, things like that are actually decently done, or very decently done, I should say, that are very, very easy to get into, and they will sort of set things up for you so that way you don't got to go through it, and they actually have a decent script that will run the process for you, so you don't have to go through all that legwork. Oh yeah.
I use a Markshall's laptop, and it uses Hyperland. And it's definitely something that you have to get used to, but I'm not going to say it's bad. It's just very,
It's
very
just got
different.
a very big learning curve, right, Mike?
Yeah, it's not it's a totally different concept in the way you operate your desktop. Instead of having overlapping windows spread around the window, it wants you to like run one app in the front and then be able to switch between them as you need them. So it's a little bit different.
I'm gonna be honest. I have no idea Hyperland. I have honestly no interest in Hyperland.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I
don't
can
get it.
sell you, Dale. I just put a script, a GitHub page in the chat and also on the YouTube stream. It's Cool's OpenSUSE Tumbleweed Hyperland install script. So that sounds like good
That's what I was
content
talking
for
about.
you.
I will absolutely check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the
And
guy
if-
that I was talking about that has the automated script, Nate. He makes it. He's got one for SUSE. He's got one for Arch, for Ubuntu, for Debian. He's got a good couple of them. And the only one he doesn't have one for is Gentoo. And the reason is because Gentoo is so fast, so highly customizable, more so than Arch. It's really not easily set up, capable for automating it for Gentoo. It's just not. So
I
Yeah,
have that
because
link
that would
open
depend
too.
on what the. Oh, go ahead.
I have that link open, Nate, and I will check it out tomorrow, and I will let you know by tomorrow evening what I think about it.
Awesome. So I don't know what I was installing on.
I'll tell you this, Hyperlink is set up for people who don't want to take their hands off the keyboard. That's what it's for.
I think that's why it's not set up for me, because I just want to be lazy.
Some might think
Slightly
that
off topic,
not
but I
taking
just
your
wanna-
hand off the keyboard is being lazy.
yeah.
Slightly off topic, but I just want to put to rest the myth that Gentoo is faster than anything else. Back in 2019, I installed Gentoo, and we did some tests against Peppermint 10, and it was maybe 0.2 seconds 0.02 seconds faster on some applications. But for general day-to-day use, Gentoo isn't that much quicker. It's just a pain in the backside to set up, and it really is an even bigger pain to maintain. But that's off the Hyperland. I would never use a window manager like Hyperland and all that. Like, again, back in the day, Dustgeek said, "Look, you really should try i3. It's going to be the greatest thing." And they've even got a wallpaper that's shows you all the commands. So I installed it. I opened up i3. I opened up the first application. It went full screen. How am I supposed to see the wallpaper now? It's full screen. I can't see it. So I've never gone back to an Hyperland. Isn't Omarchi or something Hyperland, or is that another?
Omarchi, yeah.
Yeah, it is. That's what I
That's the only version of Arch that I've used.
You get it installed and you think, right, well, okay, now where do I go? Right, let me open up a web page on this other monitor so that I can work out what the commands. And it's just too alien for my thought processes. Yeah, I'm just a mix of use the mouse, use a keyboard, use the mouse, use a keyboard. I use keyboard shortcuts, or I use mouse. I just can't do this window tiling thing all over the place. It just does my head in. And
it's not meant for a casual user. Okay.
So I have a question as well.
Someone who wants to be productive. That's what Hyperland's about.
So question for Z or anyone else.
Way?
For the productivity or just even the user experience, like the only version of Arch I've ever used is Omarchi. I was wondering if there's something similar for Gentoo, and if anyone has an experience of like that same kind of highly opinionated pre-config installer, so that you don't have to deal with the headache of these more notorious distros, and you could just try to jump right in and use a tiler for the first time and see if it's actually more productive or like valuable Because my experience so far has been very similar to Z, like where it's just like a complete whiff. Haven't really gotten much
Well,
value out of it. It's just been hard.
Dang.
Well-
Something like Archie for Gen 2? I have not seen. Oh, God. I have not seen a darn thing like that. I
Mhm.
would say if you want something like that, there is no such thing yet, unfortunately.
Here's the thing about
know-
Gen 2. Gen
Yes.
2 is kind of a different animal as far as distribution goes. It is built for you to be able to compile everything just the way you want it for and they do this way on purpose for if you're compiling Linux for specialized hardware or just a specialized environment you want. Gen 2 kind of resists pre-made images by design. So, there was one thing called CloverOS, which was a 4chan joke that had a script. I believe you can still get it, but I really don't think that you can. Yeah, it hasn't been updated in a long time.
Right.
But really, as far as Gen 2 goes, there aren't many pre-made distros for Gen 2 just because of the way it works.
I just put a list of Gen 2 based distros. It's probably not exactly what you're looking for, but there might be something to start there if you want to check that out, Harry Brewer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And-
Also,
Yep.
Nate, by the way, I took
Yes.
your suggestion. I tried OpenSUSE. I
Okay,
used
good.
Rancher quite a few times. I've only used it via
Excellent.
CLI, but I've had good experience with it, just using Rancher and K9s for a nice quick GUI in CLI.
Yeah, I think it's pretty great. We're just as an aside, real quick, I'm getting ready to deploy a couple more clusters for the facility in Texas that I work. So that's pretty excited about that.
Very cool.
So yeah, working with SUSE on that.
And
go ahead.
And for that list that you just put up, Nate, I would say, from my point of view, Calculate Linux would be a good one to try, because Adrienne of Calculate Linux was the one who was helping Serge help me install Linux back in the day. Really nice guy, really good community, very helpful. And to do a Calculate Linux install seemed to be an awful lot easier than doing a Gen 2 native one.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is, because Calculate, it pretty much takes you through the entire process of Gen 2 automated, and it makes Gen 2 feel like a freaking walk in the darn park at that point. So, yeah, Gen 2 is not really something that you would want to daily drive unless you've got a lot of patience and a lot of need to just want to torture yourself, honestly.
Well, I mean,
It's because you're a masochist. Yeah, no, it's okay.
I would say.
No.
I mean, I would never discourage someone from doing Gen 2. So if someone's a nerd,
no.
a tech enthusiast,
I would say if you're gonna do it, set aside a weekend, set aside some time where you can just read through the handbook, make sure you know what the heck you're getting into, and be ready to read a heck of a lot.
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, never discourage anyone from trying something in tech, because, I mean, depends on what's your goal. So I mean, if your goal is to maybe get more into the weeds, the nuts and bolts of how the Linux, the whole stack is put together, that's actually great. It's a great learning tool. Linux from Scratch is another really great learning tool for that as well. And so I mean, I think there's anyone here remember Dreaming Wolf? He used to say, it's supposed to hurt a little bit or something like that, but I don't know.
I will say,
well,
if you're
I would
ready for pain, go ahead, Ping, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I would kind of amend that, because someone who's brand new to Linux who doesn't know anything about Linux, Gen 2's probably not going to be their best bet. I probably would discourage them temporarily from doing Gen 2 and put them into like a more user friendly like Ubuntu and say, here, learn this first. And then if you want to learn about compiling your own kernel and stuff like that, here's Gen 2 after that. But I mean, but most, let's just face it, most desktop users are not going to want to, most desktop users don't really care about that. They want a system that works, and that's about it. So, but if they're nerds, definitely try Gen 2. I mean, I've compiled Gen 2 before on a 32-bit Toshiba laptop once. I mean, just to say I did it once. But it all depends on who it is. That's really all is what I'm going to recommend as far as Gen 2 goes.
Yeah. Yeah, because Gen 2, I would say if you're going to learn how to do it, you really want to, like he said, have that background Linux knowledge from another distro before you move on to something humongous like that.
The way you guys are describing it, to me, it sounds like the equivalent of trying to learn assembly as like your first coding language. Is that an accurate statement?
I think that could be. I think assembly is harder because you don't have a step-by-step guide to using assembly like 6502.
You also have the ability to choose. So that it's basically these stages, right? The first stage is the lowest level, and you're like doing it from like the hardware up, right? If you think of the stacks and layers, they've gotten to the point where they've got binaries already compiled for a lot of that stuff because you really aren't gaining a tremendous amount by compiling all of that. So really what they are allowing you to do if you choose is to start at a later stage where you're doing more desktop-centric apps and stuff like that, more like user land kind of stuff where you might benefit from compiling it yourself or just want to make choices about how it's compiled, like what components are built in, stuff like that. Yeah. So there are some shortcuts to doing it now where in the past, I mean, when you started from nothing, and especially on lower powered hardware, like Penguin said, I mean, it could take forever. First time I did it took like a week, to do like this basic stuff. But now you can really turn around a system much faster than that, especially if you got like a multi-core system, stuff like that. But you have some flexibility in choosing like how low level and yeah, so it's a fun project. It's just something neat to do because you learn a little more about your system and about Linux in general that you may not have known. And it's nowhere near like Linux from scratch. And it's just, it's a nerdy, fun thing to do if you're into that.
Yeah.
So it looks like there's a Gen 2 expert in the chat too. So Blue Bubble 2043, he says, so he has some other comments too about Gen 2, but the one that I think is interesting says, it's so weird. I just finished my fully encrypted hardened Gen 2 install like 2 hours ago. So obviously he knows what he's doing. I don't know if there's a way to get a hold of him if you want to like work with somebody like that. But he also says you have distribution kernels. I'm not sure what that means. So it's not the GNU, it's the kernel. So I don't know exactly what all that means, but I think it's referencing Gen 2. So anyway, so it looks like maybe there's a way, maybe he can join the Telegram or the Discord. You guys can work on a Gen 2 thing. That'd be pretty cool, I think. But anyway, all right, we're gonna move on to the next topic. So I can only do so much Gen 2. Anyway, so it looks like well, this is about Ubuntu MATE. It says, I created Ubuntu MATE back in 2014, and my involvement in the project is coming to a close. Perhaps you can help. So this is on the discourse.ubuntu.com. Mr. Martin Wimpress says, I created Ubuntu MATE back in 2014, and my involvement in the project has come to a close. Perhaps you can help. As another development cycle passes, I find myself lacking the time I once had to work on Ubuntu MATE, and to be frank, I don't have the passion for the project I once had when I when I had time to tinker, my interests are elsewhere. With that in mind, I'm interested in handing over the reins to contributors who do have the time and energy to work on Ubuntu MATE. If you're an Ubuntu contributor with experience maintaining packages in the Ubuntu archive and interested in working on Ubuntu MATE, let me know. I posted a similar message in the Ubuntu Flavor channel on Matrix. Looking forward to hearing from passionate Ubuntu contributors. And then rock on.
I would like to be one of the first to say thank you, Mr. Wimpress, for all of your contributions. And I'm not going to take up the mantle, obviously, but even those of us that do not use it, appreciate all of the help and time and effort that you have put into this. And thank you dearly.
100% in agreement there. And I think the problem that anybody else coming along will have is Martin set the bar so high in his ability to program, fix, change, involvement, that anybody else has got to be exceptional to maintain that level. And let's hope even if it's not just one person, let's hope we get 2 or 3 people who come along and say, "Yep, let's take this on, let's keep it going." Because, as you said, Dal, what a man, what a stalwart of the industry, brilliant guy.
If I remember right, he jumped in there and created MATE shortly after it went. I'm KDE guy, so I'm not really sure, but I think it went GNOME 3, and he liked GNOME 2 or something like that. And he created the GNOME 2 version of MATE that kept the mantle going for the older folks or the simpler folks. I don't know how you explain it, considering I'm KDE guy, though. Don't hold it against me, but
he actually created it so that his family and his wife could continue to use an OS with GNOME 2. They just didn't like GNOME 3 and KDE and everywhere it's gone. So it was purely to keep a happy sweetie, was it you called her a while back? Yeah, you keep the other half happy and you'll have a peaceful life. So that's the reason why he created it in the first place, because he wanted to keep his wife and his family happy.
I'm going to trademark the word sweetie, by the way. Anyway, I fully understand. And, we appreciate everything that you have done, Mr. Wimpress. And if you want to move on, we drink to you and salute you, and we wish you nothing but the best. That's all I've got.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I used MATE quite a bit on different pieces of hardware. I mean, there's the early days of Biddle, I'd call it, when they were trying a lot of distributions and a lot of different ways of doing things, and I really appreciated MATE. In fact, I installed it on I had a PowerPC based Mac, and that's actually what I ran on that for quite a long time until basically the Mac died. That'd make a good shell for something else. But anyway, it was such it's a lovely distribution. Also, the way he had 3 different, I don't know if it was still the case right now, but he had 3 different look and feels of it. He had a Cupertino, which is the Mac. He had a Redmond for a Windows look, and then there was the third one, which is the GNOME 2 look. So anyway, I thought that was always a real neat feature.
There's actually 5 now, and the good thing about Martin as well was like Dolphin Oracle, he was more than happy to come onto Biddle back in the day and discuss it with everybody. And at that same time, I think he's been on Destination Linux 3 times and is 3rd place for the longest interview that we had ever done back then, at like 2 hours 36 minutes, because we just kept asking him questions. The guy can talk Linux forever and not sound boring. He's just amazing.
Yep. I I don't know if you ever watched any of Wimpy's streams, but they're very enjoyable. So he's got a Discord channel too if you want to join that. So be good to check out.
The other thing I will say about Martin as well is I don't know if ever you guys watched any of his YouTube podcasts where he was doing developing and showing you his work process to fix bugs. Now there was a guy who, I don't know, probably had 12 or 13 terminal windows open doing 12 or 13 different things, and he would flick backwards and forwards between these windows so fast, cutting and pasting and putting and testing and redoing it again. I just had no idea what he was doing, but I used to sit there mesmerized, very much like it used to be when Ike and Joshua used to do the same thing for Solus. Watching somebody who truly knows their craft, for me, was just mesmerizing.
Totally agree. It's always real fun to just work with, or even be in the same room as like an expert, someone who operates at that really high level like that. That's even a digital room is it's a treat. It really is. And I was having like Wimpy and Popey on here in the past, Dolphin now. It's a real treat to just be with somebody who's put such heart and soul into a thing and have done great stuff with it. So I always get excited. And then I got to meet them, Wimpy and Popey, back at and went to Latvia for an Ubuntu conference summit.
Nice.
And I was, to be honest,
Awesome.
I was a little bit like starstruck, I think would be. And I think they were a little annoyed by my starstruckness, I'm going to say. So.
Well, the thing is as well that they are.
Dude, I would have been in the same boat. Don't feel bad.
Yeah, but the thing is as well, they are exactly the same in real life as they appear on screen. They are just two blokes who worked in Linux. I've had the fortune of meeting them 3 times now. Twice at OggCamp, and then once at. They used to run a podcast show with another guy, and I can't remember where, but they ran it out of they used to do it out of a pub in Reading, and they used to sit in the corner and just chat Linux all day long, and we was able to join them for 1 week as well. They're just, the whole Linux community is just full of mind-blowingly nice people, like the panelists we have here today.
One thing that it's not apparent if you don't know this, but the flavors, build their packages usually to Debian. So any work they do also transfers over to Debian. So even if you don't use Ubuntu but use Debian, you benefit from the flavors doing packaging for Debian, so that it comes over to Ubuntu later. So in case Ubuntu MATE were to go away, that would probably affect somehow, in some ways, Debian too.
And just one final thing, Nate, before you move off, let's not forget that he was the director of desktop as well for a couple of years at Ubuntu.
Oh, right, yep.
Itself.
Yeah, what release was he a part of? What was and he named it, I think it was kind of like one of his...
Gorilla something, Groovy Gorilla? And I forgot what
that
else.
sounds right.
Yeah. And the other piece of history as well was he had appeared on the show, and somebody had inadvertently mentioned that they don't read the manual, and he made it to the footnote that Martin Wimpress wrote about that particular distribution. He said, and of course, if you are like Das Geek, who never reads a manual, please don't do that. And then he went on to give Stuart Langridge an earful for some reason as well. So the guy had a sense of humor as well.
Yeah, he absolutely did. Still does. But yeah, you can check him out. He's still out there doing things. I think he's more with Nix. Is it Nix or Blend? I think it's Nix. He likes the Nix packaging, I think is what it is.
Nix OS, and I don't know about anybody else, but everyone's just frozen for me. How weird.
I can see a few people moving still, but
It's frozen
few
for
people,
me. Eric's frozen. Penguin.
Jenda, and then whoever. I think it's because of whoever
Only
was trying to load
Dale.
in there.
We had a
Starbuck, and I think that's it. No, and Seb. That's it. Those are the only people who
I
are.
was gonna say none of you have frozen for me at all.
we had a lot of problems earlier on a stream. Like we had 6 people and 4 of the cameras didn't work. There's this error 2015 that Linux Dev Labs has right now.
Yeah,
I don't know if you
that's
guys see that or not. Yeah,
Just
so
for the record,
this must be a Discord problem then.
yeah, Discord was having
impervious to being
tremendous
frozen.
problems. Yeah,
Could be.
I'm surprised it hasn't been a problem until now, frankly. So
It's the joys of technology and things.
Technology's grand when it works.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. We'll go ahead and move on to the next thing here. So, exciting news. Anthropic leaked Claude Code source and a little bit about the coverage and fallout. So, from Axios, so source material powering Anthropic's Claude Code leaked for the second time in just over a year, publicly exposing the AI coding to tools, full architecture, unreleased features, and internal model performance data. Why it matters? The leak hands competitors a detailed, unreleased feature roadmap that deepens questions about operational security at a company that sells itself as a safety-first AI lab. So the state of play, a file used internally for debugging was accidentally bundled with a routine update of Claude Code and pushed to the public registry developers use to download and update software packages. A file which was quickly discovered by Shifan Shu pointed to a zip archive on Anthropic's own cloud storage containing a full source code with nearly 2,000 files and 500,000 lines of code. Within hours, the codebase was mirrored and dissected across GitHub, quickly amassing thousands of stars. Ooh, thousands of stars. What they're saying, earlier today, a Claude Code released including some internal source code. No sensitive consumer data or credentials were involved or exposed, an Anthropic spokesperson told Axios. This was a release packaging issue caused by human error, not a security breach, rolling out measures to prevent this from happening again. Zoom in, the leaked code contained dozens of feature flags for capabilities that appear fully built but haven't shipped, according to the Anthropic spokesperson, including the ability for Claude to review what was done in the latest session to study for improvements in the future while transferring learnings across conversations. A persistent assistant running the background mode that lets Claude Code keep working when a user is idle. Remote capabilities allow users to control Claude from a phone or another browser, which was already rolled out for Claude Code. Between the lines, outside developers have already reverse engineered Claude Code, prompting a takedown notice for Anthropic, according to TechCrunch. So what's new is the roadmap, a clear picture of how Anthropic building toward longer autonomous tasks, deeper memory, and multi-agent collaboration. Those kind of updates could be a boom for Anthropic's enterprise push, which is the core driver of its revenue strategy as the AI lab prepares to go public. So thought bubble, how AI companies lock down and secure their own systems is just as important as how other organizations fend off hackers using these AI tools in their attacks, writes Sam Sabin, author of the weekly Future of Cybersecurity newsletter. The bottom line, the leak won't sink Anthropic, but it gives every competitor a free engineering education on how to build production-grade AI coding agent and what tools to focus on. And the company that marks itself as a safety-first AI lab just shipped its own source code to the public. So it's open source now, I guess. Not really. But, whoops. I don't know.
It just tells. Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said, well, it just tells you that even these big companies still have to have their security up to and their quality control auditing up to par, because if they do something like that, all their code just gets leaked, and guess what? Everybody's going to use that information now, and there's no way to undo that.
Yeah,
I
so
just
I mean,
think it's
oopsie.
amazing.
Go
Sorry, I
ahead.
just think it's amazing that all of these huge security companies and all of these people that have these massive computer technologies behind them still can't get away from simple human error. It's just scary that people spend thousands and thousands of dollars relying on companies like this, and then someone's just dumped the source code out. It's just mind-boggling.
It's definitely
Well,
an
it's
oopsie.
still if you think about all of the time and effort and money that companies put into physical security and software security, and it's almost always when someone's breached a social, right? It's just that's the lowest common denominator, right? Is just social engineering.
So there's a meme that Eris posted in the Telegram chat that, and maybe it wasn't the case, but it's from the Spider-Man movie, the first one. Anthropic says you don't need developers, security engineers. It's all agents. You know what happens when, to them a week later? What? The agent leaks the source code. So I don't know if that actually was the agent that leaked it, but it would be really funny if that would have been the case.
No, I don't think it was the agent. In fact, I think that this was intentional, and that if you look at all of the ways that Anthropic has been positioning themselves recently, it kind of lines up with them leaking it themselves based off of them not welcoming with open arms, open claw, and with them trying to do all the parallel developments, whether it's the new deploy feature or the buddy feature that was leaked, the new model that they also like kind of semi-leaked, right? There's all of these things that are kind of positioning it in such a way that makes me think, at least, that this was intentional. Also, they recently released certifications and have been positioned partner program to have people be certified consultants and architects and things of that nature. And I think they're trying to really compete with the open source community within agentic development and kind of the mind share, and the way they're kind of up in the news with the quote unquote leaks is serving them well. So that's my opinion. And if you look at like everything from the code review effect on security stocks to this the mind share that they've gained with the Mythos leak or the leaking of Claude Code source code, it's just phenomenal. And the quote unquote leaked parallel of the source code that's rewritten in, I believe it's Python on GitHub, is the fastest repo to hit 100,000 stars in history, even faster than OpenClaw. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, it's still an oopsie. Yeah, I don't know so I'm doing some stuff at work that they're wanting to embrace some more AI type tools, but I haven't really. I guess I really haven't been particularly impressed with some of them or most of them. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how this kind of all shakes out, I guess.
And I don't know if anyone here has read into the leaks and looked at the code at all, but one of the things that has been revealed is the like almost a dozen internal prompts they have per user prompt. And if you look at a company that's architecting a solution in that way, you have to think that there's dozens of checks and balances before they ever push code, whether it's automated with agents or has a human in the loop. So to think that they like let something like accidentally slip by in a routine, PR is kind of silly in my mind. Curious to hear what everyone else thinks, who has read into the code leak itself.
I haven't read the code leak at all. Just the Axios article is as far as I got.
I think people were surprised by the content of what was there and like the TypeScript and the way it was sort of put together. But it's like things like the what was it, Claude Code trying to obfuscate itself whenever working on any kind of open source projects.
Yep. Yeah, the
Like
anti-distillation features of Claude Code.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty wild. And it shows you, like you said, like what they're focused on. I wasn't sure if any of the refusal to, or the, I guess, I don't know if it's a refusal, but not wanting to be used in any sort of like military context, if that had any sort of, like when I told my wife about the breach, she was like, maybe someone like forced it to be released as a way to like get back at them or something. And I'm like, well, I don't know about that, but yeah.
No, I think that plays into their media thing as well, because like all the other companies that went along with Palantir and the Pentagon's requests, they don't get any press coverage for that. But to stand up against it, their name was in the news for weeks as well. I think all of this is very much for the shareholders, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's. I don't know. Anything I say, I'd be speaking out of my league. So I don't know. I can't say much for that. But it will be interesting to see how it shakes out. Do you think it'll have a negative effect on the on their what's an IPO right now coming up for them, or do you think it's going to have a positive effect?
I think everything's been positive for them so far. I think as long as people are talking about them, like what we're doing right now, like up until now, when this kind of thing has happened, how often has Anthropic come up in the Linux Saloon? They're doing all this because of that kind of intention, and I think that whether it's objecting to the Pentagon or leaking new features or their source code, even all of this is so that they have the mind share of OpenAI or Google level, AI presence.
Oh.
Also, think of all the publicity they're getting right now. I don't think that's going to affect them negatively at all because it's all free advertising at this point.
As long as all the publicity is positive, they should be fine.
Well, there's an argument on that actually. Depends on how bad, essentially. I mean, I really don't know how bad this is for Anthropic at all. But I would say that depends upon the kind of bad. Since no personal information was lost, probably it's not going to be stuck as anything like real bad news for anybody. I guess since no one's going to say, oh, well, personal information was lost, credit cards and so forth. So since something there was lost, I can't see it being from that perspective very bad. But again, I don't know. I'm not an expert on this in this area at all. So anyway, well, interesting nonetheless. All right. I don't know if Eris had any opinions on that. No. All right, we're going to hop into this next one. This Storm Brews critical no-click Telegram flaw over a no-click Telegram flaw. So the vulnerability which allegedly triggered a corrupted sticker in the messaging app received a 9.8 CVSS score, but Telegram denies it exists. So good news for my favorite messaging app. So a storm is brewing over the purported critical Telegram Messenger flaw that allows a full system hijack with full details of the unpatched vulnerability not set to be disclosed until July. Well, the vulnerability, which could impact some 1 billion users of the popular chat app, was discovered by researcher Michael DePlante of the Trend Micro Zero Day Initiative, or ZDI, that first revealed the existence of the flaw, which it tracks as ZDI CAN 30/207 on Tuesday, and set a deadline for full disclosure on July 26. Telegram, however, took to the social media site X to deny that the vulnerability even exists. This has put the company in a standoff with security researchers, as the flaw already is ticking up a storm of controversy and causing alarm on socials and security blogs. ZDI assigned a flaw of 9.8 CVSS score, but lowered the score to a high severity 7 on Monday. In a post on X, ZDI said the change was made to reflect the server-side mitigations that the vendor described during the disclosure process. let's see, scan details of the bug are publicly available at the time and presumably until July 26. However, various publishers have shared why the flaw has received such a dangerous rating. According to an alert by Italy's National Cybersecurity Agency, translated by Google Translate, ZDI CAN 3207 enables a suspected zero-click remotely executable network-based attack on Android and Linux versions of the app that could execute arbitrary code, access private communications, conduct surveillance, steal sensitive data, and disrupt device functionality. So when good stickers go bad, the flaw's exploitation involves using a corrupted sticker in Telegram as an attack vector. Stickers are specially crafted media files, often used by people chatting on the app to convey emotions or replace short messages. The attack vector is surprisingly simple, animated sticker. Independent cybersecurity consultant advisor Carolina Vivanti noted in a blog post on Reddit, on Red Hot Cyber, she called the vulnerability deeply unsettling because it does not require a user to click or open anything in the Telegram session or for compromise to occur. Simply receiving the content is enough, she wrote. No confirmation, no user interaction. The system processes the file to generate previews, and it is precisely during the stage that the attack occurs. However, Telegram repeatedly stated on X that such an attack vector via sticker is not possible, and asserting that it completely disregards that all stickers uploaded to Telegram are validated by its servers before they can be played on Telegram apps. Italy's National Cybersecurity Agency updated an alert on Monday with Telegram's denial. According to the official position, the centralized filtering process prevents the use of corrupted stickers on attack vector, making it technically impossible to execute malicious code using this method, the update stated. The plan to not immediately return emails sent by dark reading requests, comment, and more information on the vulnerability. So more trouble for Telegram. Telegram, which uses messaging encryption, is used by many for private communication, which is understandably why zero-click flaw that allows attackers to steal data, perform cyber espionage, and conduct various other malicious activities would represent a huge disruption to the platform. Threat actors can exploit flaws in messaging apps to target various persons of interest whose communications may be of strategic global importance, including journalists, political figures, government officials, company executives, or enterprise users. Meanwhile, the security policies of Telegram also have embroiled the company in controversy and legal troubles. Notably, CEO was arrested by French authorities in 2024 due to Telegram's historical refusal to share data with law enforcement agencies except in cases of terrorism, something that forced it to make changes to its policies. So it goes on a little bit, but I want to just sum it up here. For general public, this is not enough to disable automatic downloads that Vivant recommends and temporarily uninstall the application or use the web version of Telegram through an up-to-date browser, which leverages the sandboxing architecture of modern browsers. This prevents a stronger isolation layer compared to the native client, she said. The story was updated on March 30th to reflect the information from ZDI. So, does this concern anybody?
How does it affect average users like you and me? I mean, I don't think we're anybody of interest to the cyber community for malware or anything like that. So it's like all of these things. Yes, if you are an agent or you're government or you're a high security company, yeah, it could be a risk. But for everyday users, what do you do?
I'm not really sure.
How does it affect me?
I suppose if somebody sent you a sticker that was compromised, there's a possibility that if it made it through what Telegram says is their security procedures, that it could potentially compromise the system.
They have mitigations in the server, supposedly. They told the researchers. But it's not completely... it doesn't completely solve the issue itself.
Well, I guess we'll see on July 25th, but it seems like that's going to be really clever to be able to compromise a Linux system, I would think. Like, how would you leak out...
Does this only apply to the Linux client?
Linux and
Android.
And what's the reason for waiting until July the 26th?
Yeah. They give him like 3 months to fix the problem. Otherwise, the researchers
Right,
go
gotcha.
public with the actual details.
Gotcha.
Well, as far as compromising a Linux system, that would be extremely difficult to do through like a sticker or something on Telegram, unless there was user level access given to it, because you would have to go and enter in your password or completely take down like App Armor or something like that for it to even get past certain things. That's if it even got past your network's firewall.
Well, no, the firewall wouldn't stop that. That's a.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You're allowed to stick it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
the attacks
but
on the
yeah.
Linux system are a lot more complex than you're giving them credit for.
Yeah.
Part of the issue is like this is like those iOS security vulnerabilities where somebody would send you some kind of message that was like corrupted, and that would take over your phone, like the Pegasus vulnerability that they couldn't find for like years. It's because of the phone receives, or like the computer, I guess, would receive the message, and then automatically it takes in the malware through it. So you don't have to do anything; it just does it automatically. It's a possibility. I don't know, because like they said, the details are not there yet, but it could be like that.
Yeah. All right, I guess we'll see what happens. I don't always trust these researchers. I don't always trust governments. I don't always trust the software vendors either. So who's the most trusting in this? I have no idea. This is why I like open source.
The Telegram for Linux is open source.
But what I'm saying though is but the server side is not.
Yeah, correct.
So anyway, good times. All right. So
some better news.
Yes, some great news. So Steam on Linux use skyrocketed in March, which this wasn't in my bingo cards. So more than double the macOS gaming market share. So Valve's latest Steam survey monthly figures are, if they're accurate, Steam on Linux enjoyed a very wild month in March. Steam on Linux is now above the 5% threshold and more than twice the size of the Steam on macOS market share. Steam on Linux ended in 2025 around 3.5% market share, dipped a bit in January, and fell to 2.23 in February. That's still much better than several years ago in the pre-Steam Deck days, with Steam on Linux was around 1%. In absolute terms, with the continued growth of the Steam user base, 2 to 3% was rather healthy considering all the bumps over the past decade. But Valve just published the Steam survey results for March 2026, and they've never been so incredible for Linux. 5.53%. Steam on Linux is never above 5%, and easily an all-time high for the Linux gaming market share, especially in absolute numbers. It was a massive 3.1% spike in March. It was a massive 3.1 spike in March, while macOS also jumped surprisingly by 1.19% to 3.35%. Steam survey numbers show Windows losing 4.28% down to 93.33. So still a lot more. So part of the jump, at least, appears to be explained by Valve's correcting again the Steam China numbers. Month for month, they report a 31.85% drop to the simplified Chinese language use, and English users increased by 16.82% to 39.09. Other languages have shown gains amid the massive decline in simplified Chinese use. Latest numbers of March show around a quarter of Linux gamers are running SteamOS. Let's see, number one is Ubuntu 25.10, then Manjaro, then Ubuntu Core, Linux Mint. There's just something called 64-bit. I wonder what that is. Then Linux Mint again, and Arch Linux, and then 0 64-bit, not sure what that is, SteamOS, Halo 64-bit, and then other. So, anyway.
I think for the most part, this says that Linux gaming use has gone up. I don't know that this actually says by how much.
It says by one.
Well, the other thing is
I know it says that, but you know, when you really dig into it, I don't know if it says how much.
Well,
Yeah.
the other thing is, as well, is this is not Linux on the desktop.
Right.
This is because there are a load of people who've gone out there and bought handheld gaming devices, and they haven't got a Scooby-Doo when it's running in the background. They just know they can log onto Steam and play their games. Yeah, they don't give a monkeys what OS is on there. So, but it is fantastic news for us because it points to the developers of the AAA companies. Hey, listen, there are a load of people out there using SteamOS. If you don't make your software available for Linux, you're going to lose out on an incredibly fast growing market, and that's going to be good for Linux.
But that's actually a great thing. If they're afraid they're going to lose out some numbers because they're not making it on Linux, that's actually good for us, even if it's kind of fake.
Well, that's what I said. Yeah, it's fantastic for Linux because they're going to have to wake up, otherwise they're going to lose. Yeah.
It's also fantastic for the consumer that it's now SteamOS main, main presence that developers are considering when they're making games, right? Because in the past that was never a thing. Now, because of Steam and Valve, I would really give them the credit for any sort of pad in the numbers because of the handhelds, right? I think that's the main takeaway here.
And there are more handhelds now too, besides just the Steam Deck.
And
yeah, like the Asus one too is pretty popular, I think.
Lenovo.
and mentioning Scooby-Doo, come on, that was just brilliant.
It's pretty funny.
But I also think
a
that
South London term. Sorry,
it's beautiful.
Yeah. But I also think that it's kind of a multifaceted too, because some people, it's the handhelds too, but some people are trying to get away from Windows because they don't like the direction it's going. Linux gaming for the desktop, because of the handhelds and all of that, has gotten a lot better in playing a lot of Windows games with Proton and all of that. I think it's actually multifaceted why the number is going up. Yes, it's the handhelds, but I think it's also partly everything else as well. People are moving away from trying to move away from Windows. They're experimenting. They're seeing what games won. Actually, I think
that's a good point, Penguin. That's a good point. I would also dig into that. Even think about the cloud games, whether it's Sony's cloud games or if it's Microsoft's, Xbox cloud games. All of that, if it's being hosted somewhere else, 9 times out of 10, I'm willing to bet that's a Linux VM somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, this myth that people are leaving Windows because they don't like the way it's gone, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to shut that down like I do every single week. It's absolute poppycock. It's nerds and geeks that are moving away. Your average Linux or your average Windows user doesn't give a damn. If their machine stops working because they can't run Windows 11, they'll just go down the shop and pay another 350 quid for a laptop. They don't care what the OS is. They don't care that they're being spied on. 99% of them don't even know they're being spied on. So can we stop saying that people are leaving Windows in droves? They're not. Seriously, they are not.
Dude, I couldn't agree with Zeb more right now.
I do want to give one bit of pushback on that. And this is just, okay, maybe actually, this actually might support Zeb's position, honestly. But it's a pushback nonetheless. Maybe it's a push with. So one of the kids on this robotics team that my son is on, he runs Ubuntu on his laptop. He's got a Lenovo or a ThinkPad of some kind. And I'm like, how did you what possessed you to install Linux? I asked him, and he said, well, I couldn't. It says Windows wasn't working anymore on this machine, so I had to install something else. So how'd you know to use Linux or Ubuntu? He goes, I don't know, saw it on YouTube. And that was the end of the conversation. not really. I mean, he's more of a builder, like a mechanical kind of guy. And I don't think he really cares, one way or whatever. It was just an answer to a problem. He could care less about the operating system outside of that. I didn't tell him you should join the Linux Saloon, and I guarantee he's not watching because he's 14.
I think that the majority, 90% of people are in the same boat. They don't care if it installs and it works and it does what they need it to do. They don't care what it's called.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah, I agree. I think individuals, they could care less, but companies, I do have 2 clients. One's a medium-sized company of about 1,000 people. They are 80% from getting away from Windows totally. I mean, they have basically gotten rid of it off the desktop. So,
what are they switching to, Mike?
they're using Ubuntu. They use Ubuntu.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Not many companies go that way. I would say whether you're looking at municipalities, large enterprise, small enterprise, whatever it is, those are where you get your wins because it's one person or a team making the decision for everyone. And I think I agree with the general narrative here that these are not. Most people couldn't care, give a 2 cents which way their OS is going. It's whatever's on the device when you hand it to me is how I'm going. So when you look at where we're getting market share for Linux, it's going to be in the decision makers within organizations that are going to preload it for their end users. It's not going to be winning at the end user level, I don't think. Mac hasn't even won that battle, and they've been at this grind a lot longer, right?
Well, I think here's my impression, just based on what I see, and this is just my thoughts, is that, I mean, I agree 100% with Zeb. I mean, people are not going to change over just to change over, That's just not going to happen. I think you're going to see when companies start making the moves to do it, that's when over time, you'll see people start changing. But we're not even close to there yet, It's just kind of in the beginning. So.
Yeah, and one of the things to think about, I'm in here, I am pro Linux all the way. My company that I work for is pro Microsoft all the way. Windows 11, I've got Microsoft on my phone. It just sucks because they don't know any better.
Well, I think what it is in that regard is Microsoft makes it really easy for a business to conduct business. And so they got all the tooling in place for you to do a thing very nicely, very easily, not cheap, but it allows them to not have the pain of operating.
100%.
If there was
Yes, I don't have to think about it.
Right. So, I mean, I work for a large Microsoft shop, and I do everything on my Linux machine, but it does take a little bit of work to get it there. And actually, some things works a little better on. Some Microsoft things actually work better on Linux, which we can talk about another time. But anyway,
like the cloud.
Yeah, or even just managing certain things works way better. Using RDP on Windows machines is way better. Going from a Linux machine to RDP into Windows machines works way better than a Windows machine to RDP into Windows machines. Don't tell me why it is that way, but anyway, it is that way. So because the tooling is better in Linux for that. Anyway, so there's not really an easy button for another company to have with the Teams, the Office suite, the SharePoint, and then all those different little things, the MDM solution that they have, the Intune, all these things that they have available. You got your Azure for your applications and everything else. They have a very nice suite of tools that you can kind of pick and choose whatever works best for your organization. And there's not really a great competitor for that at this time. I'm hoping, because I would love to get off that Microsoft, insert inappropriate term here, Microsoft thing, and because that would make, I would prefer that. I mean, wherever it makes sense, I'll use an open source tool or a non-proprietary tool, whatever it makes sense. And but it's really very difficult. And I don't think Microsoft's going to hang on to that reign forever. I really don't. I think there's a lot of chinks in the armor. Anyway, I guess we'll see. But
the reason that the company that I was talking about, there are two of them actually, but the one I'm talking about is a construction company. And the reason, first of all, they moved their back end off of Microsoft, and then they moved the desktops over. But the reason that they did it is because over a 10-year period, their licensing, the budget for their licensing jumped from 1.5% up to almost 11%.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Ouch.
Yeah.
So
That's a huge jump when it comes to stuff like that. And I'm like, I remember working for all kinds of stuff when budgets go up that much. Companies will take notice, especially if it's cutting in too much to the bottom line. They will take notice and they will change. But Nate does have a excellent point about the Microsoft suite of applications. It just makes it too easy for them. And if people aren't very, very mindful, if you have an IT department that doesn't want to sit there and go through lists of hundreds of programs to try and find out what Microsoft's suite of applications can do and find different alternatives, they're just going to pick Microsoft and say, all right, here, this is what we're using. And also, the thing is also, you have to vet in all these programs for security and everything, whereas Microsoft does that for you. And there's right now there's no decent competitor in either open source or anywhere that can compete with that. I mean, Zoom can't even compete with Teams in that aspect.
actually,
they're the closest.
It can.
What?
I think you're also touching on another important
it.
point that Microsoft is the incumbent. Like that's kind of the thing. That's the elephant in the room that no one's really mentioning. Is like we're talking about Microsoft. Like you're just shopping around for a new tool. It's like no, everyone already has tools. And what tools do they have? They all already have Microsoft. So it's not about even just assessing from an even playing field. We're talking about ripping and replacing your existing hardware and software stack, dependent on your relationship with your tech stack at that time. Right. So.
Not only that,
that's a really good point.
You think you're talking about a 10% increase in licensing costs?
Yes.
Have you any idea what it would cost your organization to retrain 10,000 users from Windows to Linux? Just don't even go there. I've worked for 3 or 4 companies that have been over 1,500 users sitting in an office, and even when you change from Windows XP to Windows 10, the cost of having to go around and retrain everybody. Because let's face it, half of your employees don't understand how to use a basic computer anyway. You talk about, well, just don't put it in that directory. Use your file manager. They go, what? What do you mean?
Have you looked at Microsoft's licensing costs lately on their back end products?
I haven't worked for a company now for 2 years. All I know is that the retraining costs and the headache that the IT department and the training team has to go through far outweighs any licensing costs. Trust me, it's horrendous.
I can give you some of that current day because I work right now with a very large company in the United States that is full-blown Microsoft. And I need Microsoft Outlook, I need Microsoft Authenticator, and I need something else Microsoft on my phone, on my Android phone, just to get their emails. And it sucks. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And they gave me a laptop that is Microsoft Windows 11, and that's what I have to have in order to interact with them. And it sucks. So whenever you laugh all you want to, and I agree with you on the laughing because it's funny. If it's funny, I mean, it's funny, but it's sad because I just reset my Android phone and I can't and I can't even access my Outlook until I go in Monday and have my company approved laptop set up my company. Yeah, I know, right? My company
That's
approved
hilarious.
Outlook to get on my Outlook on my phone because I can't even
Because
do
of the
that until
two-factor,
Monday.
yeah.
I know.
Yeah, but then that company needs to move to 0 point access, because I the last company I worked for had that scenario, and then we had a new director of IT came in and said, well, if you use 0 point access instead, then you can do that from home. You've got your Microsoft app authenticator set up. Even if you reset your phone, you can import them from wherever you've saved it. And I used to mess around with my computer so much that I was breaking it all the time. But I used to use my home computer for my work instead of using the company laptop because it worked better. And even I deliberately did it to prove to them that even their 0 point security access was flawed. There was nothing I couldn't do on Linux that I could do on a company laptop. I used to cheat, but if you know how to get past these things, you can. So it's your IT company that's got to improve, not Microsoft as such.
Well, I agree. And I agree with everything that you just said. But my company is not interested. It's zero. Absolutely not interested. When I talk about Linux, they say, oh, the sky is blue. I mean, ah.
Yeah, but
There's nothing I can,
I'm not
there's
talking about
nothing I
moving the
can
company
do.
to Linux. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you could probably use your Linux stuff from home and get into the systems. You've just got to work a little bit.
I
So
will
I have a question
contact you.
about people's
I will contact you
workforce
during the week and
experience.
tell you and ask you how to hack their system. And if I can hack their system, they might listen. Other than that, there's nothing.
I was going to say,
Does
don't get
everyone here
fired,
consider
Dale.
Google or like the G Suite to be a Linux? Because if you think about it, it's in GCP, and that they're not running Windows in that cloud. Because I was just thinking about what Dale was saying from like an end user perspective, working at a company that's a Microsoft shop, and my company recently got acquired, and the acquiring company is a Google shop, and we're switching all our tools from Microsoft to Google. And as I think about it, I guess technically this workforce environment would be a cloud native Linux experience, right? Like all of the Chromium based applications, web apps, and the likes. Like, what would you guys classify that as?
They're all
It's got a
Linux.
Linux.
Yeah, they're all Linux because Linux, even though Windows rules the desktop space, Linux still rules the server space.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, I work in one of those right now. Yeah, everything. I mean, we're now migrating. Versions of Red Hat actually, but Linux rules the server
Nice.
space. So if you're working with a cloud-based app like Google or something, it's all running a Linux server in the back end.
Exactly. Yeah.
I can almost 98% chance it's running a Linux
So
server.
that
Yeah,
probably helps
but
with the
the end.
numbers too, especially when you think about the educational space and all the people
Well,
running
Hmm.
Chromebooks and everything of that nature. That's an interesting point. And also when we talk about not being able to access all of the work emails and everything on the Microsoft MDMs from the phone to the laptop, I feel that pain so much. And just on a side note, I really enjoy the company that acquired my cybersecurity company has their own browser, and with the secure browser, you can access from anywhere, even my Linux boxes, whether it's a VM or bare metal in front of me. And it feels so nice going from that painful Microsoft suite to being able to just go into a secure browser and do your work. I love it. But enough of that
Yeah,
Yeah.
tangent.
but I
well,
mean,
okay. And
even with
I'm gonna say, to be honest with you, my company is so tied into Microsoft. If they sent me an email and said, we will look into your open source alternatives, and that's all the email said, I would sleep better at night, knowing that they're, excuse my language, bullshitting me, knowing that they are just trying to make me happy. Honestly.
If you want to convince them, then just tell them to click on your GitHub link. And by the way, GitHub is owned by Microsoft, and maybe that'll convince them to click on the link.
I have honestly listen. I have tried for 2 years to try to get them to go somewhat open source. Gray Office, it doesn't matter. Just little steps. I have tried for 2 years. They are not interested.
No, absolutely not, and they never will be, because even though they, like you said, Harry Brewer, they might well be using the Google suite of apps, which is 100% based on Linux because it's on Linux servers. And Penguin was right, 500 of the world's top fastest servers run on Linux. But the person sitting at the desktop is just clicking a Windows button. They don't care what's in the background. So and that's what the companies want, and that's what the companies work with. Yeah, they don't want anything complicated for the end user. What the end user is comfortable with is what they want the user to use, because a happy user is a more productive user. If that user's then got to spend 3/4 of their brain power trying to work out how to do things differently now because it's on Linux, then that company is just going to go belly up really, really quickly, because people will leave and just go to work with a company that's using Windows.
Yes, and I'm going to shut up, I promise, after this comment. Whenever a call comes in that something's not working, they're going to look in their little book and they're going to say, okay, which Windows are you running? And if it's not a certain Windows 10 or 11, they're going to say, I can't help you. And that's going to be end of the conversation. And I have ended this conversation. Thank you for your support.
Well, and also it's a good place to put a pin in it, because we are actually past time. And I decided, just because we are so late, we had a bunch of other topics we're going to talk about. I'm going to put those in the show notes. If you're going to see the things we didn't get to, they'll be in there for you to look at if you want to. But it's a bit about Ubuntu 2604, new icons, and then SCOTUS siding with Cox in a landmark case against Sony, stuff like that. So if you want to check out those other articles that we didn't get to, they'll be in the show notes. So I'll go quickly to housekeeping. So next week we were supposed to do an application appetizer, but we didn't do it. So what I'm going to do is we're going to just do an open mic night next week, and I'm going to put a straw poll in the a couple of straw polls. They'll be on cubiclenate.com/polls for some application options to look at, and then also when to do the next Linux Saloon Early Edition. So we're going to put those up there. So if you want to vote on those, they'll be up there tomorrow. And then if you have any other suggestions, whether discussions, distribution, applications, whatever you got, send them to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com or tag Eris or myself in the Telegram or Discord, mostly Eris, and then we can talk about those. And then I have some other stuff maybe I'll throw in the show notes as well we didn't get to on the open discussion. But anyway, it is a time for last call. So real quick, by real quick I mean quick. If you have anything you want to fire away at Dale, I guess you're gonna be doing some Hyperland testing tomorrow or sometime.
Actually, last time I uploaded a video, it was Ubuntu 26.04 fixing to come out. So come check it out. I'm happy with it.
Sweet. Thanks for being here. Do appreciate you as always. And Jinda.
Yes, Nate. What can I do for you, buddy?
You were excited about the there's new now AI tools in Autodesk Inventor. Is that something?
Yes. Yep.
Positive.
It's something to learn about.
Well, I wish you all the best.
Yeah, it's. I never thought that's what happened, but they added to 3D modeling package. They added AI tools. I went into a product that I designed with a bunch of pins in it, and I said, change all the pins to 2 inches or 3 inches or whatever, and make the holes the right size, and it did.
Ooh.
It changed every one of them perfectly. It took it 10 minutes, I think. About 6 minutes.
You know, we
But
can
it
talk
did
about
it.
this another time, but I can
Okay.
think of a lot of times in my times as a mechanical designer where something like that would have been great for, like, if you have certain kinds of patterns or certain features that are repeated but they're not really
Yep.
maybe quite as parametric as they should be. That would be pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing with that. Man, I'd like to hear more about that in the future for sure.
Okay.
All right. And then Linux Dev Labs.
What's up?
Thanks for showing up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just working on my new NeoVim 0.12 configuration. That's about it. I'm not doing anything.
Are you playing guitar?
Not right now.
Oh, I see it behind
But
you.
I do
I was
play the
wondering.
guitar.
Yeah, you don't have to play it now. I'm just saying. Are you still playing? You know, that's just that was
Of course.
Okay, good. Don't give up music.
Oh, you hear the music.
No, I don't hear any music. I'm just saying don't give up music.
Oh, I won't. Of course. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here.
Penguin.
Penguin.
All right.
So I had to unmute it. What do you need?
Thanks for being here. That's it.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Just real quick, I am restarting my channel. Hopefully this week, if I can actually get a spare moment. But I'll be talking about a lot of other things. I know I haven't uploaded in 2 years, but I mean it's going to start again soon. So
Okay.
hopefully this week.
All right. So just stick the crankshaft in like an old Model T. Just make sure you don't put your thumb underneath it. Just keep the thumb over when you crank it to restart it.
Exactly. Yep, exactly.
Awesome. Jason or Starbuck, Mr. Starbuck, how are you?
Good. It's been a while.
Yeah.
You know,
I haven't seen your lovely face in a while.
Still got the cats.
Good.
The cats are back.
You know, the funny thing about cats is, at least mine, I can't speak for yours, but mine knows when my alarm goes off, and if I hit the snooze button, she doesn't really allow me to snooze. So she puts her claw right here on my neck to say, hey, it's time to get up. So she doesn't scratch me. She just kind of just gets the claw right there.
Yeah, I definitely don't have that issue because I don't use alarm clocks.
Cats are funny.
Yep.
Right, thanks for being here. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's fun.
Oh, look at that. Got a keyboard covered too. What's that bowl next to her? Is that kitty food?
That's cat food. That's cat food. Yeah, that's for the because the orange cat here
Okay.
is old and this is her put a litter box up, water and food.
I wasn't sure if maybe they're snacks for the cat or snacks for you. I was just wanted to be sure.
Oh, definitely for the cat.
Well, thanks for being here. Zeb, thanks for being here. I know it's late for you.
Yeah, no, and it's great being here again. And I just want to make the point that, listen, I am not a Microsoft shill, okay? I am really passionate about Linux. I just don't like it when the Linux community tries to big themselves up more than they're doing. They're doing exceptionally well. Let's just keep plodding along and keep chipping away, and eventually we will take a much larger market share. But let's stop with this nonsense about, people are leaving Windows in their droves. No, they're not. We've still got an incredibly hard battle in front of us. So let's keep up the good fight. And as I say, if my passion gets a bit too much sometimes, just mute me, Nate, and we'll be all good.
Nah. No, I don't mind at all. I think a voice of reason is necessary for me to hear.
Okay.
So, but thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Adam.
Yep.
So good to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a fun story for you if you have time.
I have time. Or time now or time after?
No. Afterwards, I have to wrap it up.
Yeah. I have time. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Eris, thank you very much for everything you do and keeping everything running.
Thank
Much
you.
appreciated. Eric, I don't know if you're still there, but I do appreciate you being here. It's good to have your voice.
I'm here.
Yep. And
Have a good couple weeks.
yeah, did you get anything, like you said you were working on did some podcasts recently?
Oh yeah, we did Linux OTC today.
Okay.
And
Do you
yeah,
have a
we
link for
added
that?
yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, cool.
We added Immutable Charlie, who was just Charlie. He's not immutable anymore, I don't think. He may keep the name, but yeah, he had been on Vanilla OS, which was why he had Immutable, and then now he's using Linux Mint. So
Sweet.
anyway, yeah, so you'll hear him on there. Another darn Brit, and yeah, so yeah, that's about it. I'm doing some stuff with different distros and stuff, but I'm not gonna. There's no time for that right now. That nonsense. So next time.
All right. That's okay. Well, yeah, we'd like to hear more about that. It's an open. We're doing open mic next week, so maybe you can, talk about that.
Sounds
a little
good.
bit.
Can do.
Awesome. Harry Brewer,
What's up, Nate?
thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
My closing notes would be that the Claude Code leak is really showing how much the tech world is tapped into AI. And I'm happy to say that AI is largely cloud native and cloud first, and cloud native is largely Linux first. So I'm happy to see all of the back end growth that Linux is experiencing through all of the AI endeavors that are near and dear to my heart. And thanks for having this space for all of our fellow Linux nerds to chat and talk about what's going on in the community.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. It's nice to have a lot of different from people from different disciplines of nerddom. Kind of share their insights and their thoughts and different things you want to go. And I hope you have some fun with Gen 2 here. I think that might be a good time for you.
Yeah, I'm super excited to dive in.
Sweet. Well, thanks for being here again. Mike.
Yes, sir.
Guess what I installed this week?
Let me think here. Photoshop. No.
No. Try again.
Marklight version 060.
Yeah, so what is it going to be like, just version 1? Are you waiting for something to
Well, see, the way that I work the development process is I work to get to version 1. Not only am I solving bugs and adding features, but I'm also optimizing the code each version.
Okay.
So I pick a section of the code, and when I feel like everything's rock solid and it's as fast as it can be, then we'll hit version 1.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, it seems pretty great to me.
Well, I appreciate that, and I am still working on a Windows version. That's caused a little more work than I thought it would be, but it's coming. So we'll have that up on the site at some point.
So just as a funny aside, at work this past week, somebody sent a document. It's our data analyst, but newer hire, just a few months ago, maybe several months ago now. Anyway, great work with this data analyst. But she sent the document in Markdown, and I'm like, whoop. I was really excited because somebody besides me is into Markdown in the organization. So hopefully that's, I can kind of tip some people over in the Markdown world. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say I really enjoyed tonight. The discussion was great. And it's, between watching Starbucks cat watch the stream and and Zeb being blacked out in his coolness over here, it's been a great show. So
yeah, well, thanks for being a part of it. I like the lively discussion, and we had a lot of really good lively discussions in there. I need to be better about maybe cutting these up and turning them like YouTube shorts or something like that. That'd be fun. I think time consuming. Anyway, well, thank you very much for being here.
Well, it's my pleasure.
I'm on a podcast called Linux Out Loud. We're kind of behind schedule on recording our next one, but robotics got in the way. Also have a website called cubiclemate.com. You can check that out as well. So I want to thank everyone involved. But thank you for your support. However you do it, being a part of the conversation here in both Discord or the YouTube stream. Also, if you watch the show after the fact, thank you very much for that as well. I want to thank everyone involved in making Linux and open source tools possible for us not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back into personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers. And please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see yous.
Bye for now.